the universe begins in silence. But silence is never truly empty. Far beyond Neptune, past the ghostly haze of the Kuiper Belt, something whispered across the dark. It did not arrive in a blaze of light or with the familiar tail of a comet. It slipped quietly into the solar system, like a shadow gliding across the floor of a cathedral. A presence, real, undeniable, yet fleeting, almost as if designed to go unnoticed. But astronomers did notice. Their telescopes caught a faint shimmer, a body moving too fast, too freely to be native to the sun's long embrace. They catalogued it, measured it, tracked it, and as the data grew, a more unsettling truth appeared. This was no ordinary rock or wandering ice. Its orbit was wrong, its path too sharp, its speed too merciless. It did not belong here. And with that realization, human imagination shivered. If the solar system was a carefully kept garden, this was the footprint of an intruder, an interstellar object, born in the fires of a distant star, flung across the endless dark, and now brushing against Earth's neighborhood. But there was something else, something that unsettled astronomers. The signals it returned were sparse, unusually clean. No jets of gas, no glowing tail of sublimated ice. Instead, it seemed to absorb the sun's warmth and glide on, as if not moved by chance or chemistry, but by intention. Science thrives on mystery, but mystery cuts both ways. It fascinates, and it terrifies. Was this only stone and shadow, a fragment from some forgotten system, or was it something else? Something built. A machine, older than all human history, passing by in complete silence. There were no headlines, no trumpet calls. The discovery began quietly. Just a single point of light, caught by a survey telescope in the still hours of night. The Atlas system in Hawaii, built not for poetry, but for vigilance, watched the skies for incoming threats. Its cameras swept the heavens like tireless watchmen, image after image, hunting for faint trails of motion. And on a spring night in 2020, one such trail appeared. A speck shifted from frame to frame, ordinary at first. Just one of dozens found every week, asteroids brushing past Earth, comets returning from the cold. But this one was different. A difference revealed only when its orbit was calculated. At first, it looked routine, just another rock threading through the solar lanes. But then, like a note struck off key, its trajectory betrayed its origin. Its speed was too high. Its path was hyperbolic, not elliptical. It was not bound to the sun at all. It was a traveler, a stranger passing through the solar system with quiet indifference. The International Astronomical Union named it 3I 2020 Q1 Atlas, the third interstellar object ever seen, after the mysterious Oumuamua and comet Borisov. 3I marked its alien origin, and Atlas honored the telescope that first saw it. But behind those designations was quiet wonder. Humanity had looked into the dark and found proof that the stars do not keep their secrets. Matter from other suns had entered our skies, whispering of other worlds, other histories, other fates, and with that came awe, the feeling that this was not just science, but an encounter with something far greater. Somewhere, light years away, this object was forged, perhaps torn from a young planetary system, flung out by gravity's quarrels, wandering for eons through interstellar night, and now, impossibly, it was here, at Earth's doorstep, caught in human eyes for the first and last time. Discovery is more than instruments and numbers. It is the meeting of chance and preparation, of machinery and wonder. The Atlas survey, built to guard us from asteroid threats, had found something far stranger, a messenger from beyond, as though the universe had tossed a pebble into our pond just to watch the ripples. But this visitor was moving, fast, too fast to remain for long. Astronomers had only weeks, maybe months, to study it before it slipped back into the void. And so the race began. Who would study it? Who would claim its secrets? Could its faint light curves, its ghostly reflections, its motion through the stars reveal what it truly was? What started as a shifting speck of pixels had become one of the strangest questions of our time. Was 3I Atlas simply interstellar debris, or was it something no telescope had ever been built to expect? At first, many thought it was a comet, a simple, icy traveler, a safe answer, one that fit our models. But as more observations came in, comfort gave way to astonishment. Its speed was unsettling, a momentum that seemed to resist the sun's pull more fiercely than expected. Even for an interstellar object, it moved with uncanny precision, its path cutting through the solar system like a blade of glass across still water. Most comets put on a show. Their icy hearts flare in sunlight, sending plumes of gas into space, painting bright tails across the sky. But Atlas did nothing of the sort. No tail, no jets, only a quiet gleam, as if nothing on its surface could be burned away. This silence was not just curious, it was disruptive. Without outgassing, its spin, mass, and surface properties became harder to know. It was like staring into the face of a stranger with every expression erased. Even its brightness seemed to flicker strangely, hinting at an elongated, tumbling shape, yet never revealing its true form. Comparisons came quickly. Oumuamua, the first interstellar object ever detected back in 2017, had been just as mysterious. It too had shown no glowing tail, no cometary breath, and its strange acceleration as it left the sun's pull sparked whispers of alien technology. And now, only a few years later, 3I Atlas arrived, echoing the same riddle. Two intruders, both unwilling to follow the solar system's rules, both vanishing before anyone could find answers. The scientific community was divided. Some saw a puzzle waiting for natural explanations. Fragments shaped by violent collisions, bodies made of material that resists heat, orbits altered by forces yet unseen. But others couldn't ignore how strange it all was. Why would two consecutive interstellar visitors act so differently from what we expect? And the strangeness only grew sharper because of how quickly it all passed. Each night, telescopes strained to capture data, but the visitor was slipping away, growing dimmer with every passing hour. It was as though the cosmos had tossed us a riddle, then pulled it back into the dark, challenging humanity to solve it before its trail disappeared completely. For centuries, astronomy has been a conversation between what is expected and what defies expectation. Planets follow Newton's predictions. Stars live and die as Einstein described. But sometimes, the sky whispers a contradiction, a quiet reminder that the universe does not owe us order. Atlas was one of those whispers. A body that looked like a comet but refused to act like one. Its presence confirmed that we live in a wider galaxy, but also unsettled what we thought we knew about it. It wasn't just that it moved differently, it was that its very refusal to fit our categories struck at the core of astronomical certainty. And in that defiance, scientists felt the first tremor of shock. The creeping realization that they might be looking at something stranger than they had ever dared to imagine. When the initial analyses were complete, a new question arose: what to name it? Naming is never trivial. It frames the discovery, shaping how it will be remembered. The International Astronomical Union, the guardian of celestial designations, chose the formal name, 3I 2020 Q1 Atlas. That 3I was no small detail. It placed this object in an elite lineage, only the third interstellar object in all of human history. Before it came two others, Oumuamua in 2017 and Comet Borisov in 2019. With each discovery, the word interstellar became less speculation and more reality. The Q1 marked its place in the year's logbook, a precise note amid cosmic wonder, and then there was Atlas. It honored the telescope that first saw it, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, built as a sentinel to watch the skies for threats. This time, it had found something older, stranger. Not a threat to Earth, but a reminder that we live on a much bigger stage. To the public ear, the name 3I Atlas carried both a mechanical and mythic weight. The numbers and letters spoke of data and science, but the word Atlas recalled the ancient Titan sentenced to carry the heavens on his shoulders. There was poetry in that coincidence, a robotic telescope sharing a name with a mythic giant, both carrying the burden of the heavens. For researchers, the name mattered too. It meant continuity. The first object, 1I Oumuamua, taught astronomers how little can be learned from these fleeting visitors. The second, 2I Borisov, proved that interstellar wanderers are real, not just one-time miracles. And the third, Frey Atlas suggested a pattern, that our galaxy might be full of such debris and maybe even artifacts, passing through our system more often than we ever imagined. But naming it also raised the stakes. To call it the third interstellar object was to admit that it was alien, not in construction, but in origin. Alien to the sun, alien to our cradle. Its name tied it to questions of galactic drift, planetary birth, and the long-forgotten tides of vanished star systems. The name itself became a challenge, a reminder that this was not just a neighbor, but a visitor, an emissary from elsewhere. Philosophers of science often say that naming shapes thought. By calling it interstellar, humanity opened the door to new speculation. If rocks can wander between stars, might machines do so too? If random debris can cross our path, might something intentional pass this way as well? The name 3i Atlas was more than a label. It was a signpost, a reminder that our solar system is not sealed, that beyond our planets lies a cosmic network of crossings, migrations, and maybe even messages. And so, the name endured. Scientists spoke it in papers and conferences. Journalists wrote it in headlines. Skywatchers whispered it like a charm of mystery. Atlas, a sequence of letters and numbers, but also a message. The heavens are not ours. Alone. The discovery of 3i Atlas inevitably brought back memories of another traveler, one that had already shaken astronomy to its core. Oumuamua, the first interstellar object ever seen, had cut through the solar system in 2017 like a blade of light, and turned out to be smaller than first believed, perhaps only 100 meters long. Yet its stretched shape, its strange acceleration, and its refusal to behave like a comet left scientists stunned. When Oumuamua slipped back into darkness, the debates had only just begun. Was it a shard of invisible frozen hydrogen, sublimating quietly in the sun? A cosmic pancake of rock, flattened by some ancient violence, or something more provocative? A solar sail, a relic of technology sent drifting by a civilization long gone? Arguments flared in papers, echoed in conference halls, and smoldered long after its disappearance. Barely 3 years later, 3i Atlas appeared, another interstellar visitor, once again cloaked in mystery. Unlike Borisov, which showed a familiar comet tail and reassured astronomers that nature could explain these wanderers, Atlas leaned closer to Oumuamua in character. Silent, tailless, elusive. It felt as if the universe had doubled down on its riddle, offering a second verse to the same haunting song. The comparison was irresistible. Both objects entered human awareness unexpectedly. Both left behind more questions than answers. Both shattered assumptions of what interstellar debris should look like, and both seemed almost theatrical in timing, arriving just as humanity's instruments became sharp enough to see them, then vanishing before certainty could be reached. Some argued it was coincidence, that the galaxy naturally flings such bodies into the void, stripping them of ice and leaving them inert. But the parallels between Oumuamua and 3i Atlas were difficult to dismiss. In their silence, their refusal to behave, they seemed to speak across the void. Two shadows glimpsed on separate nights, hinting at the same unseen presence just beyond the firelight. For astronomers, this parallel was both thrilling and troubling. It suggested that Oumuamua was not a fluke, but part of a larger, more enigmatic category. The question sharpened: was this category natural, born of cosmic processes we do not yet understand? Or was it something else entirely? The scattered wreckage of intelligence, the driftwood of civilizations lost to time. With a second visitor, the philosophical stakes rose. One interstellar object could be a miracle. Two hinted at a pattern, and patterns once glimpsed demand explanation. In this sense, 3i Atlas was not just its own discovery, it was a mirror, reflecting Oumuamua's mystery and amplifying its unanswered questions. Every observation, every calculation, every paper written was haunted by the memory of the first traveler, as though Oumuamua had asked a question in the dark, and 3i Atlas had replied with an echo, not an answer, but a reminder that the question still lingered. As orbital calculations became more precise, the strangeness of 3i Atlas only deepened. Most small bodies in the solar system follow closed elliptical orbits, bound in loops by the sun's gravity. Even comets from the distant Oort cloud are tethered to the star at their center. But 3i Atlas was different. Its orbit was hyperbolic, not closed at all, a perfect curve that revealed its true nature. Not a child of the sun, but a visitor, merely passing through. Yet the details of its orbit revealed more than just its interstellar birth. Its angle of approach was strange, cutting sharply across the solar system's plane, inconsistent with local debris. Its eccentricity was extreme, a measure of how violently its path broke away from the soft ellipses of planets and asteroids. This eccentricity was a signature, a fingerprint of foreign origin. And then came the most striking fact: its speed. At perihelion, its closest point to the Sun, 3i Atlas moved faster than the Sun's gravity could ever capture. No calculation. No mass of the Sun could have held it here. It was undeniable proof. This was a traveler from another star system. But for some astronomers, its trajectory hinted at something more. Its path was astonishingly precise, as though it threaded through planetary orbits like a needle through cloth, never colliding, never drifting too close. Chance could explain it, for space is vast, and planets occupy only small fractions of it. But the elegance of its passage invited unease. Was this just the blind throw of cosmic dice, or the carefully guided arc of something more? Even more unsettling were the echoes of earlier mysteries. Oumuamua had also betrayed an odd, unexplained acceleration, as though nudged by some invisible force. Explanations were proposed: outgassing, radiation pressure, exotic ices, but none satisfied completely. And now, 3i Atlas presented another hyperbolic interloper, another body whose path defied simple classification. Its orbital mystery struck at the very heart of celestial mechanics, the framework built by Newton and refined by Einstein. 2. Calculate a trajectory is to predict destiny. For centuries, planets and comets alike have obeyed those predictions. But here was an object that seemed to glide just outside those lines, obeying gravity, yet hinting at rules not yet written down. For scientists, this was both thrilling and unnerving. It confirmed that the galaxy is alive, that objects drift between stars far more often than we once believed. But it also posed a challenge. If these visitors are common, why do they seem so strange? Why do they resist the comfortable signatures of comets? Why do their paths, while mathematically natural, carry a whisper of intention when seen against the silence of space? In the end, the orbit of 3i Atlas was both proof and puzzle. Proof that the universe is open, that pieces of distant suns move among us, and puzzle, because in the graceful precision of its path, some saw more than gravity. Perhaps the faint suggestion of a journey that was not entirely blind. Its velocity told the story best. Numbers, cold and absolute, revealed the truth more starkly than speculation. At perihelion, its speed far exceeded the solar system's escape velocity. No force could hold it here. This was no captive of the sun, not an asteroid that might circle back one day. It was a visitor, entering and leaving with the inevitability of a comet, but without gravity's leash to hold it. For astronomers, the implications were immense. A speed of tens of kilometers per second may sound ordinary on cosmic scales, yet it was enough to break every claim the solar system had on it. Gravity, the patient jailer of worlds, had no authority here. It came from elsewhere, and to elsewhere it would return. That realization was both liberating and haunting. It expanded humanity's sense of belonging to the galaxy. This was no abstract theory. Material from other suns was here, cutting through the solar system, indifferent to our presence. But its speed also meant opportunity was fleeting. No probe could catch it. No telescope could study it for long. By the time humanity understood what it was already gone. Velocity became more than physics. It became a symbol. To move faster than the sun's pull was to embody freedom, to glide as a messenger of the wider galaxy. But such freedom carried strangeness. Its trajectory showed no hesitation, no wobble of a battered ancient rock. Instead, it skipped across the solar system with the smooth certainty of a stone skimming over a pond, as if its course had been drawn long before human eyes ever found it. And the numbers deepened the mystery. Oumuamua had startled scientists with its unexplained acceleration. 3i Atlas unsettled them with its relentless momentum. No jets of gas explained its motion. No faint coma betrayed hidden forces. It was simply fast, and it stayed fast, as if driven only by its own ancient history. Speculation turned toward its birth. Perhaps it had been thrown outward during the chaotic youth of a distant star system, slingshotted by the gravity of giant planets. Perhaps it was a shard of a broken moon, cast into exile billions of years ago. Whatever its origin, its speed was the fossil memory of that violence. Momentum frozen into its being, carried intact across light years, written into the mathematics of its path. But imagination did not stop there. If nature could hurl such travelers between stars, so could intelligence. What better way to send a probe, a relic, a marker, than to set it adrift on a path no gravity could capture, no star could claim? The very velocity that marked it as natural also left open the possibility of the artificial. And so, as 3i Atlas slipped past, its speed became more than a number. To science, it was a measure of liberation from solar gravity. To philosophy, a reminder of impermanence. That even when the universe shows us its hidden travelers, it allows only a glimpse. The faster it moved, the more it seemed a message never meant to be held, only noticed, like a fleeting word whispered in a dream. Telescopes strained to hold its image as the faint point of light receded. What they revealed added to the unease. Its brightness flickered, dimming and brightening in irregular rhythms, suggesting a strange shape, perhaps even a tumbling spin. From those light curves, astronomers began sketching its geometry. Not a neat sphere, not a loose rubble pile, something elongated, perhaps even flattened, a shard of rock catching sunlight at sharp angles. The possibility of elongation echoed Oumuamua's enigma. That first visitor had also been modeled as either cigar-shaped or as thin as a pancake, depending on the data. And now 3i Atlas seemed to hum the same strange note, a sliver, a plate, but not the rounded, lumpy forms familiar to comet watchers. Its spin was just as puzzling. The light variations pointed to a chaotic tumble rather than a clean, steady rotation. But the rhythm refused to resolve. Was this just the natural result of eons of impacts and gravitational nudges? Or was it something else? A balance shifted by design or by ancient use? The lack of a cometary tail removed the usual clues, leaving only the cryptic play of light and shadow across its body. Some astronomers proposed that it was a fractured comet nucleus, shattered by tidal forces near the sun, left as a glittering shard. Others noted that its reflections seemed too smooth, too planar, as though less rock and more. Sail observations were scarce, interpretations many. What unsettled researchers most was how stubborn the data was. Normally, light curves of comets and asteroids yield to simple models, predictable equations of rotation. But with 3i Atlas, every new observation seemed to multiply possibilities instead of narrowing them. The more scientists watched, the less ordinary it became. Even its faint glimmers suggested unusual composition. It did not redden under solar radiation the way other distant objects do. Its reflectivity, its albedo, hinted at a surface that did not match the carbon dark crusts expected of such wanderers. An object that had traveled so far for so long should have been scarred and darkened by cosmic rays, but this one shone brighter than expected, as if its skin had been renewed or preserved. Shape and spin became more than just physics, they became metaphors for identity. Was this an orphan shard, shaped by the cold indifference of the cosmos, or something carved, honed, perhaps constructed, sent drifting with purpose? Every flicker of light on its tumbling body became a question without an answer. The telescope had captured not just a rock, but a mirror, one that reflected humanity's own curiosity back at itself. Was the strangeness out there? Or was it inside us, hidden in the limits of our own understanding? As astronomers kept watching, a new kind of evidence emerged, not in what was seen, but in the shadows, between the light. Atlas revealed itself through its flickers, faint oscillations in brightness as it spun through space. These glimmers were its fingerprints, its only testimony. In theory, light curves are simple. As a body rotates, its changing surfaces reflect sunlight, waxing and waning in a predictable rhythm. That rhythm reveals shape, spin rate, and even hints of surface texture. But 3i Atlas refused to settle into order. Its curves did not match the clean patterns of a sphere or an ellipsoid. Instead, they looked fractured, irregular, as though the object itself were a shard, not a whole. The shifts in brightness were extreme, suggesting a body 3, 4, even 5 times longer than wide. Some models even hinted at a flat geometry, a sheet-like form, hauntingly reminiscent of a sail. Caution followed. The data was sparse, interpretations fragile, every hypothesis balanced on a knife's edge. And yet, the possibility lingered. What if this was not a rough lump of stone, but something flat, almost deliberate in its design? Shadows deepened the mystery. Small dips in brightness hinted at facets, edges, sharp transitions between bright and dark, as though its surface was carved with precision. Unlike the random chaos of most asteroids, 3i Atlas seemed to carry planes that were clean, even polished, like something fractured in one decisive moment. Could natural forces alone have shaped such geometry? Or was this the work of something intentional? Astronomers compared its light curve to what they expected from a comet. Normally, a comet would brighten as its frozen ices turned to vapor, scattering sunlight into a glowing halo. But 3i Atlas refused to follow this script. Its reflections stayed sharp, its body stark and bare. No coma, no mist, only the hard shadows of a silent traveler. The puzzle deepened when the light fluctuations revealed chaotic rotation. The object didn't spin smoothly but tumbled unpredictably, as though knocked off balance by a violent past, perhaps a collision, an ejection from its birth system. To some, it looked like a derelict craft, abandoned long ago, spinning without course correction. Like a ghost ship adrift in space, the data, as always, came as nothing but numbers and graphs. But behind those lines loomed the same haunting question. Were these shadows marks of nature or silhouettes of design? Most scientists leaned toward the natural explanation. Interstellar debris could take strange forms. The universe is endlessly creative, but the unusual symmetry, the strange shadows, and its uncanny resemblance to a sail gave others pause. In those shadows, humanity glimpsed something more. A reflection of its own need to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was a sign of another intelligence. As the weeks of observation continued, one fact became unavoidable. 3i Atlas was a traveler with no breath. Comets are dramatic performers. When sunlight touches their icy hearts, they come alive, shedding vapor and dust that stream out like glowing banners across space. Yet 3i Atlas remained mute. No plumes, no haze, no halo. Telescopes searched for the faintest trace of outgassing, but found nothing. It passed the sun as if immune to its heat, gliding onward unstirred. This wasn't just strange, it was troubling. For an interstellar object, astronomers expected volatility. Something forged in the frozen reaches of another star system should have carried enough ice to boil off near the sun. But 3i Atlas showed nothing. Explanations were proposed. Perhaps a crust so thick and blackened that heat never reached the interior. Or perhaps its endless journey had stripped it bare over millions of years, leaving nothing but a skeleton core. Or perhaps, the most unsettling thought, it was never a comet at all. Without jets of vapor to measure, there were no trajectory shifts to study. Its path stayed clean, driven by nothing but pure momentum. That precision, that refusal to behave, made classification almost impossible. And so, the memory of Oumuamua echoed loudly. That first interstellar visitor had no tail, no halo, and yet displayed a strange, unexplained acceleration. Now 3i Atlas joined it. Another silent traveler. Another object that refused to fit into centuries-old categories. Debate sharpened. Was this what interstellar objects were really like? Sealed by cosmic radiation? Long stripped of ices? Or was something stranger happening? Something we still could not name? The silence of 3i Atlas was not just absence. It was a challenge. It was the quiet of something that should have roared but didn't, forcing us to confront how little we truly know. In science, anomalies are confrontations. Each time the universe refuses to behave as expected, it pushes against the limits of what we think we understand. 3i Atlas was exactly that, a defiance of predictions. Its odd shape, chaotic spin, perfect trajectory, all of it combined into something almost adversarial, as if the cosmos itself were daring us to solve its riddle. For centuries, astronomers trusted the math of Newton and Einstein to predict the dance of planets and comets. Even the wildest events, supernovae, black holes, eventually fit neatly into equations. But this object slipped through, not because gravity failed, but because the signs we rely on simply never appeared. It was like hearing a melody that never resolves, a sentence missing its final word. And as it disappeared into the dark beyond, it left us not with answers, but with a sharpened question. Just how much of the universe do we truly understand? To some, 3I Atlas was nothing more than a natural fragment, an ancient shard of a larger body, stripped bare by eons of cosmic radiation. Its silence, its refusal to breathe vapor, could simply be the mark of time's slow exhaustion. But for others, the strangeness was too much to dismiss. Why had two of the first three interstellar objects ever discovered, Oumuamua and now 3I Atlas, both resisted the identity of comets? Why had both been so geometrically peculiar, so unwilling to reveal their nature? Coincidence can explain much, but coincidence stretched too far begins to feel like defiance. Even Einstein's equations felt strangely inadequate. Relativity could map the object's path, yes, but not its purpose. If purpose there was, the trajectory seemed too clean, too precise. The problem wasn't physics, it was interpretation. Was this simply cosmic debris, or was it something deliberately made? The math remained solid, but its meaning trembled. Some astronomers quietly admitted their unease. To face something that doesn't break physics, but instead breaks our confidence in what we think we're seeing, that is a deeper kind of disturbance. A black hole terrifies because it fulfills physics completely, taking the equations to their ultimate extreme. 3I Atlas terrified because it seemed to refuse narrative entirely. It was quiet, unshowy, indifferent, and in that silence, it mocked humanity's hunger for answers. The object became a mirror, reflecting our own uncertainty. Were we ready to face the possibility that not everything in the heavens is accidental, that some motions might be written not just by nature, but perhaps by hands we have never known? Cautious voices dismissed such ideas as romantic overreach, imagination straining under the weight of novelty. And yet the unease lingered. For every model that cast it as mere rock, there was a whisper insisting it was something more. Atlas didn't break the laws of physics. It broke our comfort, and in that fracture, it exposed just how fragile our sense of certainty becomes when the unknown drifts close enough to touch the sky. Astronomers turn to their instruments, the great sentinels of modern science. Pan-STARRS in Hawaii, the same survey telescope that had first revealed Oumuamua, tracked the faint dot against the starry backdrop. Stitching together a fragile light curve from mere glimmers of brightness, Hubble joined the chase. From its orbit above Earth's turbulent atmosphere, it refined the object's trajectory and gathered spectral clues from the sunlight it reflected. But 3I Atlas was small, dim, and swift. Each observation was a race against time. Its speed carried it from patch to patch of sky in hours. Its faintness forced astronomers to take long exposures, risking blurred images as it sped onward. Still, photon by photon, Hubble scooped what little light it could, as if catching shadows in a jar. Observatories around the world joined in. The European Southern Observatory's powerful telescopes in Chile, the twin Keck instruments in Hawaii, even skilled amateur astronomers with high-end gear all pointed toward the visitor. The results were layered together like a patchwork, fragments of brightness, brief glimpses, spectral hints, until what emerged was not clarity but paradox. Spectral analysis suggested a surface that was neither fully cometary nor fully asteroidal. Its reflectivity fell into a strange middle ground, neither the pitch-black carbon of dead rock nor the glitter of clean ice. Something between, a contradiction written in numbers. Its faintness only deepened the mystery. Astronomers are used to rich data, glowing tails, emission lines, radar images. Here there was almost nothing. Just a handful of brightness points scattered across nights, turned into models that strained credibility. And still, the unease persisted. This was no ordinary comet. The closer instruments looked, the stranger it seemed. Each attempt to identify its composition came back with riddles. Was the surface covered with complex organics, baked dark by cosmic rays? Was it a metal-rich shard of a shattered core? Or, as some dared to suggest in hushed conversations, Was it coated in something smooth, something engineered to endure? The act of observing became philosophical. Science thrives on abundance, on data so overwhelming that doubt is washed away. Here, there was only absence, and absence itself became the evidence. No jets, no tail, no familiar spectrum. The silence of 3i Atlas was as loud as any signal. Telescopes watched until the faint point of light faded, slipping back into invisibility. Every photon captured felt like a last ember rescued from a dying fire. And when it was gone, the scientists were left with more questions than answers. What they could say was this: 3i Atlas was small. It was swift, its surface was strange, its behavior was defiant. And beyond those facts, there was only mystery. The more precisely they measured, the more it slipped away, like water through a net. Every instrument turned toward it, hoping for patterns, for a hint of regularity to anchor it among the known. But the patterns never came. Instead, they were left with silence and riddles. The gaps became the story. Comets usually announce themselves loudly, their spectra full of chemical fingerprints. Water vapor, carbon monoxide, cyanide, each molecule singing its own note in sunlight. But 3i Atlas remained mute. The detectors strained, and yet no familiar song came. It reflected light, yes, but revealed nothing of its chemistry. No spectral signature, no chemical voice to betray its composition. Even the brightness curves, plotted with care, refused cooperation. Where astronomers expected neat, predictable rhythms, they found erratic flickers. It brightened without warning, dimmed without pattern, as though its spin was tangled or its surface sculpted in ways no simple model could capture. Every attempt to fit the data left behind stubborn errors, hints of some hidden complexity. It was as if the object resisted being translated into numbers, refusing to be tamed by equations. Then came the most unsettling realization. No one could say how big it truly was. Without a tail, without clear reference points, estimates ranged wildly. Some calculations placed it at only a few dozen meters, others at hundreds. Its size, its mass, even its true shape remained phantoms, guesses wrapped in inference. This mysterious traveler passed through the most sophisticated network of instruments in human history, and yet it slipped away with no certain identity, a cipher masquerading as stone. Its silences became its portrait, a missing tail, a missing spectrum, a missing rhythm, each absence louder than any signal. Scientists began speaking in paradoxes. A comet without gas, a rock without clarity, a body without measure. For some, this was simply the hard lesson of astronomy. Not every visitor can be known. Distance and faintness are merciless, and most mysteries dissolve into darkness before they can be solved. But for others, the very gaps invited speculation. What if these silences were not natural, but deliberate? What if the missing signatures were the signature? The universe owes us no patterns, yet humans cannot help but look for them. And when we do not find them, we invent stories. In the case of 3i Atlas, those stories began to tilt toward the extraordinary. If it was natural, it was unlike anything ever catalogued. If it was not its, then perhaps its absences, its refusals, were the marks of something designed to hide. An object not meant to announce itself, but to pass unnoticed, leaving behind only questions. And so, in the logbooks of astronomy, 3i Atlas was recorded not for what it revealed, but for what it withheld. Its legacy was absence, and absence, too, can be evidence. As its silence stretched on, theorists filled the void with models. If it did not behave like a comet, perhaps its very substance was exotic. Not exotic in the sense of science fiction, but in the precise vocabulary of physics, material rare to our solar system, forged by processes beyond our reach. Some proposed hydrogen ice. In theory, such a body could sublimate invisibly, creating a gentle push without leaving a detectable coma. The idea had once been floated for Oumuamua as well, but hydrogen ice is fragile. It should have long since evaporated under the slow bombardment of cosmic radiation. Still, the idea lingered, a way to explain motion without visible thrust, propulsion without trace. Another model imagined a shard of nitrogen ice, sheared from the surface of a distant Pluto-like world. Smooth, reflective. It could mimic the strange glints astronomers saw, but could such a fragment survive a journey of light years? Wouldn't interstellar dust erode it to nothing before it ever reached our sky? And beyond the natural explanations, came the boldest theories. What if 3i Atlas wasn't a lump of rock at all, but something thin, deliberate, a sail? Radiation pressure from the sun could explain its motion. A solar sail would need no outgassing, no cometary behavior. Unlike natural debris, it would keep its geometry intact, defying erosion. This line of thought sparked a cascade of speculation. Could it be a fragment of an alien megastructure, a sliver of some ancient machine, or perhaps a probe, designed to blend into the silence of space, reflecting just enough light to be seen by anyone paying attention? Mainstream science hesitated to indulge such thoughts. Journals favored explanations that preserved the ordinary. But in conference hallways, over late-night coffee, whispers of alien engineering crept through conversations. The absence of data became fertile ground for imagination. And in that silence, humanity found itself dreaming, not just of what was out there, but of who or what might have sent it. What made these theories so compelling was not just the anomalies themselves, but the weight of cosmic history. Again and again, the universe had proven to be far stranger than human expectation. Black holes were once dismissed as fantasy. Exoplanets were thought improbable. Cosmic acceleration, unthinkable. So why should interstellar visitors play by the rules of our comfort? In the silent reflection of 3i Atlas, astronomers faced a choice. Write off its strangeness as a statistical fluke, or consider the possibility that these shards from deep space were showing us a category not yet written into our textbooks. Exotic matter, alien sails, fragments of machines. Each theory stretched the imagination, yet each remained faintly tethered to the data. The object itself offered no answers. It tumbled on, catching sunlight in ways that mocked our attempts to decode it. All that remained were models, speculative scaffolds reaching toward a mystery already gone. And within those models stirred something deeper. They weren't just efforts to explain one stray rock in the sky. They were rehearsals for a larger question. What happens when the universe shows us something we cannot yet name? The question had haunted astronomers since Oumuamua. Could such an object be more than mere stone? With 3i Atlas, the whisper grew louder. Most scientists clung to natural explanations, as the discipline demands. But the very anomalies that refused those models gave space for speculation. What if this wasn't debris, but an artifact? What if it was a spacecraft? And this idea wasn't born solely in the public imagination. A handful of respected voices within academia dared to consider it. If an interstellar civilization had ever explored the galaxy, their probes might look exactly like this. Small, thin, silent, blending in among natural wanderers. The elegance of such a disguise was unsettling. A sail drifting between stars would appear to our telescopes just as 3i Atlas did. Faint, elusive, too fast to catch. Its silence only deepened the intrigue. It emitted no radio signals, no beacons, no announcement of intent. But what if that was the point? Perhaps it was built to watch, not to speak, to pass by unnoticed, just as our own Voyagers, Pioneers, and New Horizons spacecraft now drift silently outward, no longer transmitting, destined to cross the stars as relics. To another civilization, they too would appear as mute, enigmatic visitors. Philosophers of science warned against projecting human motives onto the unknown, and yet the parallel was haunting. If we build silent probes that wander between stars, why should others not have done the same? The galaxy is ancient. Civilizations could rise and fall countless times before ours ever looked up. Their machines might still be out there, drifting like messages in bottles, following trajectories that span millennia. Still, caution prevailed. The scientific method demands restraint. Natural explanations must come first. And yet, the fact that credible scientists even entertained the thought of alien engineering marked a quiet shift. It was not a claim, but an opening. The door of possibility had been nudged, just enough to let the question through. In the halls of conferences, the phrase alien probe moved like a ghost. For some, it was a distraction, a taboo. For others, it was a reminder that science is not only about answers, but about courage. The courage to let a question linger, even when it feels forbidden. Atlas offered no confirmation. It spun silently into the dark, carrying its mystery as its only testimony. But in that silence, speculation rooted itself. If it was a spacecraft, it had passed us by without a word. leaving only the faintest trace of its existence. If it was not, it was still something that defied our categories, a reminder that the universe contains forms we are only beginning to recognize. Either way, the whisper endured. The possibility of an alien probe was not disproven. It could not be disproven, and that alone was enough to haunt the imagination, enough to bend the narrative of discovery toward mystery. Atlas had become more than a rock in the sky. It had become a question, and questions once asked are never forgotten. Once the word artificial had been spoken, the next step was inevitable: listening. If 3i Atlas was not simply a rock but a craft, might it carry a signal? For decades, SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, had scanned the sky for radio transmissions, listening for faint patterns in the cosmic static. Now, with an interstellar object sliding through our solar system, SETI turned its instruments toward it. At Green Bank in West Virginia, at the Allen Telescope Array in California, dishes were aimed toward the intruder. Receivers swept across radio bands, searching for narrow signals, repeating pulses, anything that stood apart from the cosmic hiss. The challenge was enormous. They were listening for a whisper against the roar of the galaxy, while the target itself raced across the sky, and the result was silence. No pulses, no pings, no messages hidden in the noise. If 3i Atlas was a machine, it was not speaking, at least not in a way we could hear. To many, this confirmed its natural origin. Machines, they argued, announce themselves. They do not glide mute, but SETI researchers knew better. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. An artifact, if that's what it was, might operate in ways invisible to human senses, transmitting on frequencies we cannot yet detect, or choosing silence as a deliberate strategy. Some astronomers drew a haunting parallel. Earth itself has already launched probes into the void. Voyager, Pioneer, New Horizons. Each carries only a faint radio signal, and in time, even that will fade. One day, those machines will drift wordless between the stars. To any other civilization, they would appear as mute fragments of metal, glinting briefly in sunlight, offering no declaration of purpose. Wouldn't another intelligence, stumbling across Voyager, face the same dilemma we face now? Would they not ask whether it was debris, or a messenger abandoned long ago? SETI's silence did not end speculation. It deepened it. If 3i Atlas was artificial, perhaps it was derelict, a husk of technology adrift for millennia. Or perhaps it was never meant to speak. Its mission, if it had one, might have been to observe in secrecy, to pass through unnoticed. In that light, the absence of radio chatter was not a dismissal of its mystery, but a sharpening of it. Listening continued until the object faded from reach, its faint light swallowed by distance. SETI logged the silence, adding another entry to decades of unanswered scans. For many, this was a familiar story. The cosmos remains mute even when we beg it to speak. But for others, the silence of 3i Atlas was not emptiness. It was presence, the presence of a possibility that refused to close. And so, humanity did what it always does when confronted with the unknown. It kept listening. The telescopes turned away, the visitor vanished, but the ears of our civilization remain open, straining against the static, waiting for the day when silence finally yields to a voice. Among the many theories, one rose to prominence for its elegance: the solar sail hypothesis. If 3i Atlas was not a natural shard, but a thin sheet, then the pressure of sunlight itself could explain its strange trajectory. Photons, though massless, carry momentum, and when they strike a surface, they impart a faint push. On an ordinary rock, this effect is negligible, but on something broad and wafer-thin, light becomes a wind, and the object, a sail. This idea had already been proposed for Oumuamua. Its puzzling acceleration, unexplained by outgassing, could have been driven by radiation pressure. Humanity had already tested such sails. Japan's Icaros mission in 2010 unfurled thin membranes to harness sunlight as propulsion. The Planetary Society's light sail projects followed, proving that photons could indeed carry a ship across the void. If we have done this in the 21st century, could not another civilization have mastered it long before? A light sail drifting through interstellar space would look exactly as 3i Atlas looked. Faint, tumbling, without coma or tail, requiring no fuel, leaving no exhaust. Its journey could last millennia, carrying it from star to star with nothing but the patience of light. Even the light curves of 3I Atlas seemed to whisper this possibility. A thin sheet, reflecting sunlight unevenly as it spun, could account for the strange flickers recorded. Its shape would be unlike ordinary comets, more planar than round, more sail than stone, and if such sails exist, they may not be unique. Perhaps they are scattered across the galaxy, relics waiting for chance discovery. But this hypothesis carried its own doubts. Could such a fragile structure endure the rigors of interstellar space? Wouldn't cosmic dust and radiation shred it to tatters after millions of years? For some, this fragility was proof against the idea. For others, it was even more unsettling, suggesting that if the sail had survived, it must have been built from materials beyond anything we know, alloys or composites unknown to our laboratories. The solar sail hypothesis balanced on a razor's edge between plausibility and wonder. It was both science and poetry, photons as wind, stars as engines, space as an ocean. If 3I Atlas truly was a sail, then it was more than an object. It was a message, a proof that the dream of light-driven travel was not unique to Earth, but shared across the galaxy. And even if it was not, the fact that serious scientists entertained the possibility marked a turning point. The cosmos had grown strange enough that alien engineering was no longer a pulp fiction fantasy, but a hypothesis that could sit beside natural models in the pages of academic journals. Thus, 3I Atlas became, in imagination if not in fact, a sail, gliding on beams of starlight, propelled by nothing more than the patience of time and the curiosity it left behind. And once the sail idea was raised, an even deeper question followed. If it was a sail, who set it adrift? This speculation opened the door to what some now call cosmic archaeology, the search not for living civilizations, but for their relics. Just as ruins on Earth tell the stories of cultures long vanished, the galaxy itself might hold remnants of beings who once thrived, but are now gone. Seen through this lens, 3I Atlas was not puzzling at all. It was exactly what one might expect. A relic, silent and inert, no longer transmitting, a husk drifting endlessly between stars. And to those who discovered it, it would look exactly like this: a faint point of light, irregular in brightness, mysterious in form, offering no signal but its existence. Cosmic archaeology reframes the search for intelligence. Instead of waiting for radio messages, it invites us to look for artifacts, derelict probes, fragments of technology, even debris fields scattered across interstellar space. One day, our own voyagers, pioneers, and light-sail craft will become relics of Earth's age of exploration, still gliding through alien skies long after humanity itself is gone. To another intelligence, they will appear as enigmas, just as 3I Atlas appeared to us. Perhaps the galaxy is not silent after all. Perhaps it is filled with relics, drifting, waiting, whispering stories of civilizations long past to any species advanced enough to notice. Perhaps the galaxy is not silent at all. Perhaps it is filled with relics, messages too faint for us to notice, artifacts mistaken for drifting stone. Cosmic archaeology suggests we already live inside a museum without walls, a museum so vast that its exhibits are invisible until our tools evolve enough to see them. 3I Atlas then becomes more than a scientific curiosity. It becomes a mirror held up to time. If it is natural, it reminds us that planets scatter fragments of their birth into the void, fossils of their creation. If it is artificial, it whispers that civilizations scatter their own fragments too, probes, monuments, machines, leaving them adrift for others to discover. Either way, it is proof of continuity. Stars give birth to worlds. Worlds shed pieces of themselves, minds launch vessels, and matter carries their stories across eternity. Watching 3I Atlas fade was to realize that we may not be the first to ask questions of the stars, nor the last. The cosmos remembers, even if civilizations forget. For decades, this silence has carried a name: the Fermi paradox. If the galaxy is ancient, if stars have made planets for eons, if life had time to bloom 1,000 times over, then where are they? Where are the signals, the ships, the undeniable proof of intelligence? The paradox is not simply silence. It is the gap between what we expect and what we actually see. And into that gap came Oumuamua, then Borisov, and now 3I Atlas. Each was a whisper of possibility, especially the first and third, which refused to behave like ordinary comets. Some said these were not coincidences but provocations. Perhaps the paradox is not silence at all, but camouflage. Perhaps civilizations have sent emissaries, only they look nothing like what we imagine. If probes disguise themselves as rocks, we would never notice. If they drift without signals, we would call them debris. The very search for comets and asteroids might be putting us face to face with such objects, even as we dismiss their strange behavior as natural quirks. What if the answer to Fermi's question, "Where are they?" is simply this: they have passed us by and we failed to recognize them. 3i Atlas seemed to embody that possibility. It came from beyond the sun, showed no tail, revealed no clear identity. Had we not been watching with modern instruments, we would never have seen it at all. A ghost gliding past our skies, and if it was a probe, it mocked our assumptions, proving the paradox not with absence, but with presence too easily overlooked. That idea unsettled many. If such objects are probes, then they might not be rare. The galaxy could be seeded with them, relics of exploration drifting past every star eventually. The paradox would not be a silence of civilizations, but a silence of recognition. We are listening for voices while the messages are already moving past us. Yet others argued the opposite, that if even these mysterious visitors are nothing but stone, then the paradox becomes sharper still. Perhaps life is rare, perhaps intelligence rarer, perhaps what we see are not signals of order, but fragments of chaos. This tension was the power of 3i Atlas. It didn't solve the paradox, it sharpened it. Its silence could be camouflage, or it could be emptiness. Its presence could be a clue or a cosmic joke. To call it alien was accurate only in origin, beyond our solar system. To call it alien in a deeper sense remained speculation. And yet its connection to the paradox could not be ignored. Each interstellar visitor reopens the question, are we alone, or simply too blind to notice company when it passes near? Some scientists wrestled with these questions, while others looked beyond the idea of alien technology altogether. Perhaps the strangeness of these objects is not technological, but cosmological. Perhaps their very existence hints at structures deeper than we imagine. One proposal reached back to cosmic inflation, the explosive expansion at the dawn of time that scattered galaxies across the void. 3i Atlas could be a fossil of that event, a fragment from a world we can no longer trace, drifting forever between stars, or even between universes. Others invoked the multiverse, countless realities separated by quantum boundaries. Could interstellar objects be messengers from those other realms? Speculative, yes, almost mystical, yet the thought carried weight. 3i Atlas had already crossed one boundary, arriving from beyond the sun. Might it hint at even greater boundaries between universes themselves? Some theorists turn to the idea of false vacuum decay, the notion that our universe may sit in a fragile temporary state that could collapse into a deeper one at any moment. Such transitions might scatter debris across the cosmic foam. Could 3i Atlas be that kind of debris, not just alien to our solar system, but alien to our universe's stability itself? At this point, science became poetry. Some called these visitors cosmic flotsam, washed up from wrecks in universes beyond. Others saw them as breadcrumbs, hints that our physics is incomplete, our understanding partial. And still the mystery deepened. Whether natural or artificial, comet or craft, each possibility pointed to something larger. If natural, we must rethink our models of interstellar debris. If artificial, intelligence has left its traces. If cosmological, then reality itself is stranger than we know. In its silence, 3i Atlas became a metaphor, a reminder that the universe is vast, layered, and may hold secrets beyond our reach. Its enigma did more than inspire speculation. It inspired ambition. If such objects pass through more often than we once believed, why not be ready next time? Thus was born the idea of an interceptor mission, to meet the next visitor face to face. Space agencies and independent researchers began sketching bold proposals. Instead of launching a probe after discovery, what if one was placed in deep orbit ahead of time, waiting like a sentry? When the next interstellar visitor appeared, the probe could be diverted onto a rapid intercept course, racing to meet the traveler while it lingered within reach. Such a mission would demand speed, agility, and precision instruments designed for a fleeting encounter. Spectrometers, cameras, dust collectors, perhaps even harpoons to grab samples from the passing body. This was no longer just a dream. The European Space Agency began studying projects like Comet Interceptor, initially intended to study a pristine comet, but easily adaptable to investigate an interstellar visitor. NASA too explored fast-response mission concepts, outlining scenarios in which a spacecraft could intercept the next wanderer before it was gone forever. Each new object, Oumuamua, Borisov, 3I Atlas, emphasized the urgency. Opportunities like these come once and vanish. Ideas grew bolder still. Fleets of miniature spacecraft, swarms of nanosats powered by solar sails or ion drives, stationed at key vantage points in the solar system, ready to launch the instant an intruder was detected. They could converge from multiple directions, surround the object, map it in 3 dimensions, and capture its secrets before it slipped away. The goals were clear. Measure composition directly, scan the surface up close, listen for radio emissions, and finally test whether these objects are truly stone and ice or something stranger. For the first time, humanity could hold in its hands what telescopes had only glimpsed from afar. But the challenges were immense. Interstellar objects race through the solar system at incredible speeds. By the time one is discovered, it is already plunging toward the sun, traveling at tens of kilometers per second. Designing a probe that can launch quickly enough and match that speed is a monumental challenge. Without advance warning, interception is nearly impossible, and yet hope persists. The upcoming Vera C. Rubin Observatory will soon scan the skies with unprecedented sensitivity, likely spotting more of these visitors earlier than ever before. That early warning might finally give us the time to launch a chaser. For now, these missions remain blueprints, proposals in journals, visions in the minds of engineers. Still, the urgency is undeniable. 3I Atlas reminded humanity that these cosmic messengers do not wait for us. They appear once, then disappear forever. If we want answers, we must be ready, not after discovery, but before. The dream of interception is more than a scientific goal. It is symbolic. It represents a civilization choosing to reach out, to chase mystery instead of letting it slip away. Whether the next visitor proves to be ordinary debris or something extraordinary, meeting it face to face would mark a turning point. The moment humanity decided not just to watch the unknown, but to engage with it, and yet, the dream collides with the hard limits of reality. Even as proposals fill conference halls, the technical barriers loom like mountains. To chase an interstellar object is to pursue a ghost already fleeing at impossible speeds. By the time our telescopes spot one, it is already streaking through the solar system, already racing away. The physics is merciless. A spacecraft must not only catch up, but match its velocity to linger nearby. That requires fuel far beyond our current capacity. Even our fastest probes, New Horizons passing Pluto, the Parker Solar Probe skimming the Sun, travel at only a fraction of the speed needed. Worse still, the clock is brutal. Discovery comes suddenly, and launch windows slam shut almost immediately. It takes years to design and build a spacecraft. Years we simply do not have once the object is already here. Without pre-built, pre-positioned probes, interception remains nearly impossible. And even if we succeeded, the encounter would be brief. A few minutes, perhaps seconds, at incredible speed. A flyby would yield precious but painfully incomplete data. A handful of images, a spectrum or two, maybe a dust sample captured in passing. The dream of orbiting such an object, landing on it, exploring it in detail, lies far beyond what our technology can currently achieve. For now, humanity is confined to watching from a distance. We build better telescopes, improve detectors, sharpen our vision, but direct contact remains just out of reach, like the visitor itself fading into darkness. And yet, there is beauty in that recognition. It reminds us of where we stand, children at the edge of a vast cosmic stage, watching giants pass by. We cannot yet follow, only point, measure, and wonder. The frustration is deep, but it is also fuel. Every limit is a challenge to grow, to invent, to reach further. 3I Atlas, in the end, became not a symbol of failure, but of the future. One day, perhaps centuries from now, humanity may master engines capable of crossing the solar system in days, not decades. Perhaps fleets will lie in wait, sails already unfurled, prepared to meet whatever approaches from the dark. Until then, we are reminded of humility. We are not yet ready to grasp the messengers that slip between the stars. For now, we can only watch them pass, shadows against the night, and imagine what truths they carry. If spacecraft cannot yet chase an object like 3i Atlas, perhaps the answer lies in building sharper eyes. Telescopes remain our first line of contact with the unknown, and a new generation is rising on the horizon. Foremost among them stands the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile, a facility set to transform astronomy's relationship with the changing sky. When its legacy survey of space and time begins, its massive wide-field camera, the largest ever built, will scan the heavens every few nights, capturing nearly the entire visible sky. With vigilance like this, faint and fleeting objects like 3i Atlas will no longer slip through unnoticed. They will be spotted earlier, tracked longer, and their mysteries pried open with more time to respond. Alongside Rubin is the James Webb Space Telescope, already rewriting astronomy by probing the atmospheres of distant exoplanets and glimpsing the first galaxies formed after the Big Bang. For interstellar visitors, Webb's instruments could reveal surface compositions in exquisite detail, reading the spectral fingerprints of ices and minerals too subtle for ground-based observatories. And beyond Webb lie even more ambitious dreams. The extremely large telescope rising in the Atacama Desert, the proposed 30-meter telescope on Mauna Kea, and future space observatories that might dwarf even Hubble and Webb combined. These will not merely sharpen our view, they will extend it, catching fainter travelers and tracing their paths sooner. Astronomers imagine a future where we do not passively watch the sky, but actively track the wanderers that sweep through it. A new science, interstellar archaeology, might emerge, dedicated to recording every visitor, measuring every spectrum, capturing every glimmer of light. But this promise is not merely technical, it is philosophical. For centuries, we imagined our solar system as a closed room. Each new detection reminds us that we are not isolated. We live at a crossroads, a place where travelers silently pass. With instruments like Rubin and Webb, we may finally stand at the window with clarity, no longer straining to see. Still, telescopes can only look, they cannot touch. They can measure but not intercept, and yet, in their expanded vision lies hope. The hope that the next visitor will not escape so quickly, that we will have more time, more data, more answers. 3i Atlas has faded into darkness, but it left us a challenge. Sharpen our eyes, prepare for the next. The galaxy is not silent. It speaks in fragments, in visitors, in mysteries disguised as stones. Telescopes are our keys, and with each new one, the locks begin to turn. And then, a quieter question began to emerge. Not about engineering, but about the very fabric of reality. Could the mystery of 3i Atlas point to a deeper puzzle, one hidden not in technology, but in physics itself? Quantum mechanics tells us that at the smallest scales, certainty dissolves. Position and momentum cannot both be known. Particles blur into probability, superpositions layered like whispers. Gravity, meanwhile, speaks the language of general relativity, precise, unyielding, describing orbits and curves with perfect logic. For a century, physics has struggled to reconcile these two voices. Some wondered if anomalies like 3i Atlas were faint reminders that the reconciliation has yet to come. Its hyperbolic path was clear, but its spin, brightness, and silence carried irregularities that resisted easy explanation. What if these were not mere gaps in our data, but hints of processes beyond our models? Could radiation pressure behave differently on materials we have never encountered? Could quantum effects scale upward in ways we do not yet understand, leaving strange signatures in an interstellar object's motion? Speculative, perhaps? But history urges caution. The orbit of Mercury once defied Newton's equations until Einstein revealed the curvature of space-time. Could 3i Atlas be a modern Mercury? Not strange in itself, but a clue that our theories are incomplete. Others look to dark matter and dark energy, the invisible framework that shapes the universe. If 95% of the cosmos is hidden, might interstellar objects carry traces of it? Could their paths reveal subtle interactions with forces we have not yet mapped? Perhaps what mattered most was not the object, but the physics it exposed, the tug of fields not yet discovered. Even quantum philosophy found its way into the discussion. Was the very act of seeing this object a kind of entanglement, a momentary connection between humanity and a traveler from another star? Did its passing remind us that we, too, are particles in a cosmic wave function, shaped by probabilities we cannot yet fathom? These ideas offered no final answers. They widened the frame, They reminded us that science is not a fortress of finished truths, but a horizon always receding. In the end, 3i Atlas may have been nothing more than stone, but in refusing to give us an easy story, it forced humility. Perhaps the mystery lies not only in the object, but in the unfinished nature of our own understanding. A whisper that there are still laws unspoken, equations unwritten, truths hidden in the dark between the stars. Beyond the orbital charts and spectral graphs, something else lingered. Something science alone cannot contain. The weight of time, the echo of silence. 3i Atlas was not just a body in motion. It was an encounter with the unknown. And encounters do more than rewrite equations. They reshape emotions. Philosophers and poets turned their attention to it. If it was only rock, then its journey was still extraordinary. A traveler crossing light years through endless dark, carrying the persistence of matter across time. If it was artifact, then it was a ghost from minds beyond our own, a relic of intentions we may never decipher. Either way, it became a mirror, reflecting our curiosity, our fragility. Time itself seemed to hum through its trajectory. Here was something older than civilizations, older than continents, perhaps older than the solar system itself. It had wandered through the interstellar void for eons, unseen, until one fleeting moment when human eyes caught it against the stars. That moment, brief, accidental, fragile, carried the weight of contact, even if the contact was only with mystery itself. And then came silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but of a withheld answer. It neither confirmed nor denied our speculation. It offered no message, no signal, no voice. It came, it passed, it vanished, and we are left to fill the silence with questions. That silence presses against the human heart, reminding us that the universe owes us no explanation. What does it mean to exist in a universe where such visitors arrive without warning? Does it humble us to realize how limited our tools are, how short our window to witness them truly is? Or does it awaken us, reminding us that we are already part of a dialogue with the galaxy, even if it is one-sided, even if the answer is only silence? Philosophy turns anomaly into symbol. 3i Atlas became more than a piece of rock. It became a meditation on existence itself. Its journey was a single stroke across the canvas of space-time, and in its fading light we saw our own reflection. Seekers, dreamers, listeners in the dark, hungry for meaning. The object vanished, but the silence it left behind endured, stretching through the human imagination like an endless horizon. It was not merely an absence, but a question. And within that question lay the very essence of being alive in a universe vast enough to conceal its truths. To scientists, 3i Atlas was a puzzle to solve. To philosophers, it was a symbol of cosmic uncertainty. But to ordinary people, to anyone who looked up and heard about this interstellar traveler, it stirred something even deeper. Awe. Awe is rare. It is born when the human mind confronts something it cannot contain. The sight of towering mountains, the stillness of the ocean, the first glimpse of Earth from orbit. Such moments stretch the limits of perception. Ein Atlas had the same effect, even though few ever saw it with their own eyes. Its mere existence struck a chord deep within the imagination. It was proof that the universe is not empty, evidence that the gulf between stars is not a wall but a pathway, filled with wanderers, stone, ice, perhaps even machines, drifting unseen through the dark. To know that something from another star passed so close was to feel small, yet profoundly connected, a part of a greater story written in interstellar ink. The awe was sharpened by its fleetingness. 3i Atlas was here for only a moment, then gone, vanishing into the deep night. Humanity could not hold it, could not measure it completely, could not uncover all of its secrets. Its escape was not a flaw, but a feature, the very thing that made its presence feel sacred, like a rare guest who leaves before a word is spoken. The public imagination, fueled by headlines, latched onto the possibility of aliens. Was it a probe, a spacecraft, a message? Even those who dismissed such ideas found themselves gripped by wonder. Because in asking those questions, humanity was forced to confront its own longing. The desire not to be alone, the yearning for contact, for meaning beyond Earth. But awe carried with it a shadow of fear. If visitors can arrive unannounced, what else might come? Could danger travel alongside mystery? The thought was unsettling. And yet, even fear was woven with fascination. The same fear that haunts every unknown. The fear of a dark forest. The fear of a distant horizon. Mostly, though, 3i Atlas inspired reflection. People stood beneath the same stars and measured their lives against a timeline far beyond human comprehension. A single object no larger than a mountain had crossed interstellar space for millions of years, only to blaze through our sky in a blink of history. What are human struggles, human triumphs, compared to such journeys? And yet, what an achievement it was that we even noticed. That fragile creatures on a small world had built instruments sharp enough to glimpse it, even briefly. In its passing, 3i Atlas revealed not just the vastness of space, but the vastness within ourselves. The capacity to feel wonder, to confront mystery, to be humbled and uplifted in the same breath. That was its gift. As 3i Atlas receded into the dark, a sobering thought grew louder among scientists and philosophers alike. What if it was nothing more than debris? What if all the talk of probes and alien messages was simply projection? The human instinct to dress mystery with meaning? If so, then 3i Atlas was still extraordinary, but in a different way. It would not be the whisper of alien minds, but the echo of alien worlds. Perhaps it was a shard ripped from a distant planet during its violent birth, a fragment cast outward by gravitational battles between giant newborn worlds, a relic of ancient collisions, the kind that shaped our own Earth, Moon, and planets long ago. As cosmic debris, it told a story not of civilizations, but of the forces that link all stars and worlds together. Every planetary system sheds fragments, every orbiting body is shaped by violence, and across billions of years, trillions of such shards must have been cast adrift, filling the galaxy with silent travelers. That we have only just begun to detect them is its own revelation. We are finally part of the galactic conversation, even if the conversation is with stone. This interpretation carries its own quiet beauty. To admit that 3i Atlas may be nothing more than debris is to recognize the majesty of nature itself. No alien mind is needed to create wonder. Physics alone can sculpt mysteries, trace motions that disturb us, create silences that echo louder than words. And yet, even this view has poetry. If 3i Atlas was simply a shard, then what we captured in our telescopes was not the work of technology, but the memory of a distant sun. That rock was once warmed by a star not our own. It may have orbited a world alien to Earth, skimmed the rings of a foreign giant, or been hurled outward by forces we will never witness. To glimpse it was to read a line of history written far beyond our sky. Even natural debris can be profound. Each fragment is a messenger carrying the geology of other worlds into our neighborhood. Each one proves that planetary systems are not isolated, that they scatter their stones like seeds into the galaxy. If 3i Atlas was merely debris, it was still a story worth telling. A story of stars that forge planets, of planets that shatter and collide, of shards that wander the interstellar dark until, by chance, they cross our sky. To call it debris is not to diminish it, but to place it within the great chain of cosmic history, a link connecting us to places we cannot yet see. Perhaps that is enough. Perhaps we do not need it to be a spacecraft to feel awe. Perhaps wonder lives as much in stone as in signal. Perhaps the debris of the galaxy is itself the greatest message. Proof that we are part of a cosmos alive with motion, with fragments, with silent messengers that drift through our night, reminding us that the universe is vast, patient, and forever unfinished. But speculation did not end there. For every voice calling 3i Atlas mere debris, there was another asking the haunting question. What if it truly was a craft? If so, the implications would be staggering. It would mean we were no longer just observers of nature, but witnesses to intention. Somewhere, sometime, a civilization had chosen to send something into the void. Whether probe, relic, or derelict, it would be the first evidence that intelligence had crossed the gulf between stars. In that light, the silence would not be emptiness, but strategy. A craft could choose not to speak. It could be built to observe, not announce, to slip through unnoticed, disguised as debris. Perhaps that was the point, camouflage on a cosmic scale. If it was a craft, its mission might already be over. It could have recorded, transmitted, or simply endured its purpose, long fulfilled. Perhaps it had been launched millions of years ago, when its makers still thrived. Perhaps they are gone now, and only their machine remains, wandering without a master. A technological fossil from a vanished world. If so, 3I Atlas was not just alien technology, but alien history, a drifting ruin in the Museum of the Stars. Others imagined an even darker possibility. What if it was not abandoned, but active? What if its silence was deliberate, a way to pass through unseen? To consider this was to feel a deep unease, that the galaxy might not be empty, and we might not be its firstborn. Such thoughts carried both terror and wonder. Fear, because the presence of minds beyond Earth shatters the illusion that humanity is central. Wonder, because it confirms we are not alone, that thought and creation have taken root elsewhere in the dark. Both emotions are inseparable, each amplifying the other, and in this tension lies the true weight of 3I Atlas. If it was a craft, it changed everything, not in what we saw, but in what we dared to believe. Even without proof, the very possibility was transformative. For centuries, humanity has asked if we are truly alone. But with objects like this passing through our skies, the question feels less like a distant speculation and more like preparation. Whether derelict, relic, or deliberate probe, an alien craft appearing within our solar system would mean the galaxy is far older, far richer, and far more inhabited than we ever imagined. It would mean civilizations are not just possible, they endure, their traces written into the fabric of interstellar space. Atlas gave no answers, yet by opening the door to speculation, it changed the way we see the night sky. Every faint dot of light, every passing object might no longer be mere stone. It might be story, memory, intention. It might even be company. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, 3I Atlas was gone. It slipped beyond the reach of telescopes, its pale light swallowed by the abyss. Astronomers watched their graphs go flat, their data streams turn to silence. The interstellar visitor had exited the stage, vanishing into the wings of the galaxy, never to return. Its absence was as haunting as its presence. For months, it had captured the human imagination, a tiny shard of mystery anchoring endless speculation. And then, like a dream at dawn, it dissolved, leaving behind only memory and mathematics. Its coordinates became nothing more than predictions, calculations of where it might be now, racing outward into infinity. But no eye could follow, no ear could listen. There was an ache in its departure, a helpless recognition. Humanity had glimpsed something extraordinary and been unable to hold on. Our instruments had caught only a handful of photons, enough to tease us, never enough to fully reveal its secrets. In its silence, in its passing, 3I Atlas revealed the limits of even our most powerful science. We could watch, we could wonder, but we could not know. This lingering absence became a presence of its own. Conferences bore its name, papers debated its origin. Artists and writers conjured visions of what it might have been, and yet all of this revolved around a void, an object gone, an encounter forever unfinished. Its vanishing made it legendary, like a traveler who passed through in the night, leaving only footprints in the snow. For astronomers, this absence was not despair, but motivation. They knew more would come. Oumuamua had prepared them. Borisov had confirmed the category, and now Atlas had deepened the mystery. The galaxy is full of wanderers. To miss one is only a reminder that countless others are already on their way. And yet, there was a silence deeper than any gap in the data, the silence of what it might have been. A comet stripped of its ices, or a probe stripped of its purpose. A fragment of a shattered world, or a machine from forgotten makers. We will never know. Its absence guarantees that, and in that absence, humanity is left with reflection. The stars do not wait for us. Their messengers travel on their own schedule, indifferent to our readiness. If we wish to catch their truths, we must become faster, sharper, more prepared. Until then, the mysteries will continue to slip into the dark, leaving only silence in their wake. Atlas has become exactly that, a permanent absence, a silence carried outward into a night that will never echo it back. Its memory lingers not as an answer, but as a question. Its passage was brief, its light faint, yet its echo rings louder than its glow. Because in its silence it taught us something essential. The universe does not speak plainly. It speaks in riddles, in glimpses, in silences that force us to imagine. And what did we learn? That we are not as alone as we once believed. That fragments from other stars cross our path, reminding us the galaxy is not distant but intimate, that even with 21st century telescopes peering back to the dawn of galaxies, we can still be humbled by a shard of matter slipping unnoticed through the night. And perhaps most of all, we learn something about ourselves, our hunger for meaning, our instinct to wonder if a stone might be a machine, if silence might be camouflage, if absence itself might be a message. These questions reveal as much about the human spirit as they do about the cosmos. We are seekers, never satisfied with data alone. We push against the silence, demanding story, demanding company, demanding that the universe share its secrets. Atlas did not answer. It gave no signal, no spectrum, no proof. It came and went, a flicker against the stars, and left us with the deepest reflection of all. Perhaps the universe is not waiting to be solved. Perhaps it is waiting to be wondered at. In the end, 3i Atlas was both less and more than a spacecraft. Less because we may never confirm alien intent. More because it revealed the shape of our own curiosity, the restless drive to imagine, to reach, to ask. Its silence was not emptiness, but invitation. And so, humanity is left with an unfinished dialogue, not a message, not an encounter, but a reminder that mystery itself is our oldest companion beneath the stars. And now, as the story closes, the pace slows. Imagine 3i Atlas, no longer visible, drifting beyond the reach of every telescope, tumbling gently through a sea of stars. The galaxy stretches around it, vast, patient, a dark ocean lit by distant suns. Breathe in that stillness. Let the questions soften. Tonight there is no need for answers. The visitor has passed, and with it, the urgency of speculation. What remains is a calm knowing that we are part of a universe alive with motion, alive with mystery, alive with possibilities beyond sight. The image fades until there is only darkness, and in that darkness, feel the quiet reassurance. The unknown is not an enemy. It is a companion walking beside us, teaching humility. Each unanswered riddle, each fleeting glimpse is a thread in a larger fabric, one woven not just of science, but of wonder. Let your thoughts drift with the object, carried by invisible tides. Picture it gliding past distant stars, brushing past unseen worlds, crossing vast stretches of space where no gaze will ever follow. Its silence feels peaceful, reminding us that the universe moves to its own slow, eternal rhythm. Breathe with that rhythm. Let the endless sky feel less like empty distance and more like a quiet embrace. Empires rise and fall. Lives begin and end, yet the stars endure. Their messengers come and go, sharing their mysteries before vanishing once more. And so the night falls silent, leaving only the questions, waiting, patient, beneath the stars.